is my honor to introduce Mayor Todd Gloria, the mayor of our beautiful hometown in San Diego, and our special guest speaker for today. As you may or may not know, Mayor Gloria made history as our city's first person of color and first openly gay mayor, and something we're especially proud of, being our first AAPI mayor, being a Filipino descent. So if you thought the food and hospitality in San Diego is good, it's gotten a whole lot better. Mayor Gloria has accomplished so much in a short time as mayor, and since coming into office amid a pandemic no less, the mayor has worked tirelessly to make sure no community gets left behind, be it our small businesses, communities of concern, students, workers, truly creating a San Diego that is equitable for all of us. It is for that reason that we eagerly invited him today, and we look forward to hearing what he has to share. Please join me in welcoming San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria.
Thank you so much, Jason. He's my best promoter of San Diego, everybody. If you don't know Pagyal, get to know this guy. He's definitely a partner in making sure that San Diego remains America's finest city. I want to thank the Cal Asian Chamber for this opportunity to greet you all. I know this is an annual event, but I think we can all agree it comes at a more important time, right? We are all struggling with the pandemic and doing our best to climb out of it. And I think the disproportionate impacts that this has had, the inequitable impacts of the pandemic has had on all kinds of communities, but particularly communities of color and specifically our API community, it makes this convening even more important. And as Jason mentioned, as the first person of color and specifically Filipino ancestry person elected to the mayor's office of the 8th largest city in the country, this is front of mind for me. And I appreciate the chance to share some thoughts with this group about what I think that means and what we need to do to address it. It has been said many, many times how the pandemic has laid bare the inequities of our community, almost to the point of it being trite. But I think that when we look at what it has meant for those who have the privilege of working from home and those who don't have that privilege, the folks with easy access to healthcare and those who do not, for folks who are already struggling to make ends meet and having their household income decimated by the pandemic and what that has meant to those communities, it is all over the place. And it really should be a challenge to all of us to figure out, as we have resources provided to us, as we have new latitude given to us through regulatory relief, economic relief, how can we concentrate those opportunities to address those inequities? It's been interesting to me as I took office last December. I think this is my 306th day as mayor of this city. Who's counting, right? When we started to bring up issues of equity, it was shocking to me the number of people who don't even have a familiarity with the concept. And that's why convenings like this are so important, for us to spend time really educating those who need it about what this looks like and then how to operationalize it in the community. When I'll tell you, one of the most important things as mayor of a city you have to do is to pave streets, right? Fill potholes. Filling potholes is pretty darn important, right? When an equity lens is overlaid on that, you find out pretty quickly that while we can talk and need to take action to repave in roads and fill potholes, the truth of the matter is that even in San Diego, our tech, innovation, life sciences city, that we have dozens of miles of roads that are not ever been paved, ever. And these are not on the edges of town and rural communities. This is in the middle of our urban communities. And so that's the equity conversation, right? Yes, we must fill potholes, but let's recognize that when you're talking about road repair, there are some communities who have never had the privilege of a paved street. And what are we doing about them? To put that in the context of the pandemic and inequity, I think it starts with representation. There's a reason why Jason introduced me the way that he did. It is still history making when one of us is elected to office, period, let alone an office like mayor of a major American city. And I recognize that when I walked through the doors of this office, this is my office, this is not my home, just to be clear, this is not my decorating aesthetic for my house. When I walk through these doors, I recognize that I can't be, it's not enough for me to be here, I have to bring others with me. And so whether it's the most diverse mayoral administration that has ever happened in the city's history, where we have many members of the API community who are part of our personal staff and increasingly are part of our appointed administration operations staff, you recognize quickly that having a seat at the table is pretty darn important. I'm proud to say that for my appointments for boards and commissions, which there are hundreds in the city, that to date we have equity when it comes, or equality when it comes to gender. They have been balanced 50% male, 50% female, but that we have over 70% of our appointments have been communities of color. And that's roughly reflective of where we're at as a city. In fact, thank you, Jason, for being willing to serve on our city's Small Business Advisory Board. Having people at the table when decisions are being made are so critical. And I'm taking the opportunity afforded to me by the voters of the city to make sure that we're having those seats filled by diverse voices who can help us to drive change and really start with those conversations around equity with an informed position so that we can get to the business of appropriating, of taking action, of driving change. That said, with regard to our COVID response, we were fortunate to be entrusted with almost $300 million in federal funding thanks to the American Rescue Plan. And I want to express my appreciation to President Biden and Vice President Harris, as well as our partners in Congress, for entrusting us with those dollars. That has made the difference in San Diego of whether or not we were laying off police officers, firefighters, lifeguards, or keeping them on duty and having them do what we asked them to do, which is to vaccinate tens of thousands of San Diegans. And that's what's going on in our city. That's the difference those dollars made. But taking those dollars and running them through this lens of equity, recognizing that for many of our small businesses, many of whom are owned by communities of color, AAPI owners, that we have to drive dollars into those communities. So the Asian Business Association, which Jason leads, has been our partner in saying, okay, we're going to appropriate these dollars, but we're going to make sure that we translate them into languages that are accessible to members of our community, that we have trusted third parties like the Asian Business Association to go out and explain to folks what this program is, help them actually apply, get the applications in the door. I would tell you this model has been very successful when it comes to our city's rent relief program. You may have heard that there are cities across the nation that are struggling to take the dollars entrusted to them to help extinguish people's back rent and utilities. That is not true in San Diego. In our city, we've been able to assist over 12,000 households to access our rent and utility relief program. This is a program that, as you know, is funded by the federal government and with some of the dollars coming directly to big cities like mine and some of the dollars flowing through the state. Working with trusted CBOs, working with equity-driven organizations, we have been able to expend all of the money provided to us. 12,000 families that are not concerned about becoming homeless, at least not at this point in time, because we've been able to work with an equity lens, recognizing that it's not sufficient to create a program, but that you have to market it, you have to make it in language that is accessible, that you have to have people assist folks often to make it get done. That's what an inclusive, equitable economy looks like. So whether it's our small business nonprofit relief dollars, the rent relief dollars, driving equity in these conversations gets real results. I think that's a part of the secret sauce where we've been successful where others haven't with their relief efforts. And I hope that it's a strategy that other cities, other communities will employ to benefit more folks. Going forward, we're going to continue to drive these kinds of solutions. I think that that's what the future of California and of our nation looks like. And I appreciate having the Cal Asian Chamber to be partners in that, to have convenings like this one, to help me share stories of success, to help others like my friend, Assembly Member, soon to be City Attorney David Chu, will surely will share with you all shortly. But I hope that all of you will reach out to me and let me know how I can best assist your efforts. While we see the promise of a world post-COVID, thanks to the vaccines, and this is my daily reminder to you all, if you have not yet gotten vaccinated, please go immediately get vaccinated. This is how we can put an end to this pandemic. But a recognition that even when we get past the public health orders, that we'll continue to be climbing out of the hole that has been dug to us by the pandemic. San Diego is a proud tourism town. Our tourism folks were in to see me the other day, sharing with me that it's going to take literally years before we will get to the visitors and dollar amounts that we experienced pre-pandemic. That's a recognition that today's conversation about equity and resilience is not just a 2020 or 2021 conversation. It's a 22, 23, 24, maybe 25 conversation. So this conversation this morning is critical. And I'm grateful that all of you were a part of this conversation this morning. And I hope that you will share with me the ways that we can work together to make sure that the things that we're pioneering with our small business relief, with our rent relief, is done in other parts of our economy so that we can come back. I can come back here in a couple of years and tell you that we don't have unpaved roads in San Diego, that the equity program has allowed us to fill potholes in every community, but has helped us to pave those roads that for 100 years have never been gotten to. I got the signal that I talked too fast and that I may be ahead of time. I acknowledge that that's the case. I have a lot to say. And my suggestion is that you just listen faster. I'm being facetious. But I am passionate about the opportunities that equity provides us. I'm grateful for the leadership of people like Jason and David and others who are deep in this work. And I hope that the partnership is understood and it's there. I think back to my grandfather, who was Filipino, and I think about when he came to San Diego in the 1940s. He came here because of the military. So many of our community came to San Diego for that reason. And I share with you that in my lifetime, he died a couple of years ago. In my lifetime, I never saw him in anything other than a three-piece suit. And that was a little bit weird when he would mow the lawn at his home in a suit. It just didn't make sense to me as a kid. What I learned over time was that he did that because as a man of color in San Diego, in California, in the 1940s and 1950s, that he wasn't seen as a man, and that his suit was what he used to try and communicate that he was worthy of the respect of others. I share that story with you because when he was mowing that lawn, that was in a house in the community of Claremont, where he was to the last day of his life upset that he was forced to put down more money than anyone else on the block because he and his Puerto Rican wife dared to buy a home in what was not historically a community of color. These are stories that happen within my lifetime. That are fresh in my mind. And it's a recognition that while I may currently be the mayor of the city, it was only 2 generations ago that my grandfather had struggled to buy a home in the city, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he wasn't allowed to. Let's not lose touch with those stories. Let's not lose touch with those experiences. Let's recognize that some of those experiences are still being had in parts of California today. And it's really a reminder to all of us of the work that we must do. Yes, the pandemic has brought this to the forefront of our minds, but as we look at the hate crimes that are being perpetrated against our community, we recognize that prejudice and that discrimination is still very much present in the community. It is just below the surface. And so conversations like what's happening today, convenings like this one, have importance. And as I mentioned, as we consider the pandemic, it's going to take a while to get out of this position. But even when we do, we're still going to run up against the systemic prejudice that people like my grandfather experienced, that frankly still even I experience on occasion. And I hope that we can work together as a community to combat them as best we can. I hope my cadence got a little bit better there toward the end. Thank you for your indulgence in that. And I want to maybe conclude by simply saying, remember that as you travel, San Diego is always a great place to come. Not only is Jason Pag out here, but our great Convoy district, which is increasingly the hotbed of our Asian Pacific Islander community, is here for your enjoyment. So when you are willing and able, please come down to San Diego, come pay us a visit, come visit the AAPI mayor, and come see what an equity lens in municipal government looks like. We would love to have you here in the city. With that, thank you again for the privilege of your time this morning. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the solution. And thank you for helping to advance the entire community, but particularly our API community, which I'm so proud to be a part of. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gloria. It's truly an honor to have had you this morning. And just to provide a little context for everyone, when we were planning out this summit mid-year, we were intending to be live and in person in San Diego. It's been, the collaborative work that we've been able to do with Jason at ABA San Diego, the San Diego Regional Chamber, your office, has really been inspiring and informative to our collaborative efforts to address technical assistance for small business, equity, resiliency, recovery. And so we thought it was appropriate to do, to bring this summit home, so to speak. Unfortunately, with the Delta variant, we obviously made that pivot. We really appreciate you setting aside the time to still be with us. Maybe we'll be back there next year in person, yes, hopefully. And I would also like to mention for everyone, we had the chamber, when I joined the chamber 2 years ago, it was an honor to support then Assembly Member Gloria through the efforts of the chamber for his mayoral campaign. And we're very proud of not only the victory, but more importantly, his administration and what he's doing there in San Diego. Just a 1 hour and 8-minute flight from Sacramento. I know it very well. As long as the flights are running, it's very fast. So with that, thank you so much, Mayor Gloria, and to your staff for working with us and taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule. So we really appreciate that.
Well, David, thank you for that. And yes, you always have a standing invitation in San Diego. I'll remind everyone that our tourist tax is less than some of our other big cities in California. So we are a relative bargain if you all want to come here. And yes, appreciate the flexibility, right? You know, we would rather have done this in person, but the pandemic is real and Delta variant's real. So I appreciate the nimbleness and that ongoing relationship. Yes, we have a wonderful AABA down here. Our chamber is fantastic. The Cal Asian Chamber. I appreciate your regular visits. And I think for maybe some of your supporters who are here, it's important for them to know I see David and the crew down here in San Diego often, and that's really important. We're the second biggest city in California, right? And the fact that you all would come down here and maintain these strong connections, you know, as we work to open up our economy, we're a major port. We have an international airport. There are so many reasons to look to San Diego, and having those strong connections between this city and this organization are really, really important. David, thank you for investing in this relationship, for visiting our city and helping to spread the word. Together, I think we do some amazing things. Let's get this pandemic behind us. Let's get back to some level of normalcy, and let's set about the work of making sure we're uplifting the Cal Asian Chamber, our AAPI communities, and our California economy in general, with San Diego at the forefront.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much, Mayor, for being with us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.